Hey, welcome back to Rustwater Garage. Let's get some more stuff off the list. So last video, finished up all the intake air plumbing, got the wastegate spring in, got the blow-off valve on. So the list. Intercooler is now officially done. Blow-off valve, done. We are getting down to it. What do we got? Catch can. Maybe later today. We'll have to see. I think vac lines is going to be the next leg, all the vacuum lines. The hood's going to be almost last, wideband almost last. I still have to get an air filter. I think I have one kicking around. And boost gauge, well, that'll actually tie off of the vacuum block. But, yeah, we'll see if that gets done today or not. But anyway, today is going to start with the vacuum system. Okay, before I get into running the vacuum lines, I got to put my last fittings on the wastegate, which is a VS Racing wastegate. I bought it. It was it's an eBay. You know what? It's so bright in here. I got to close the door. All right, back to it. So, as I was saying, I bought a VS Racing wastegate, which has nothing written on it, except it says VS Racing on the top of it. So yes, I know I bought a VS Racing wastegate. The blow-off valve is an eBay special. I guess I didn't think that was as important from what I'd read. So anyway, the wastegate obviously came with the other springs for tuning later, another time. Right now I have the red spring in there, which I think is the lightest spring. Couple things come with the wastegate, which is just to note: extra screws in case you screw up the screws when you're changing springs. Also, what I didn't know is these can be water cooled, so they actually come with little AN4 fittings to thread into the wastegate to put coolant through them. Not going to use that. So last thing is the fittings are like this, and they use a banjo bolt, similar to what you might see on some brake calipers. If you've never assembled one of these, they're really easy. There's a couple of crush washers that come with them. So you just take your banjo bolt, crush washer, slide the fitting on there like that. Second crush washer, thread it in. And there are the fittings put onto the wastegate housing there. There are multiple ports around the perimeter of the body, at least for the lower port. The upper port, you can either go off this little guy here or off the top. Just depends whatever works out better for your system. Because I'm running strictly off the spring, I'm going to only use the lower port right now, and the upper port will be a vent. And after we get silly with that and want to add more boost, maybe we'll tee those together and double it up and see if we can break stuff. But for now, we'll just run off the lower. So I'm going to run a vacuum line off of my compressor housing right over to the lower port on the wastegate and tee off to the loud valve, and that will take care of this side. Vacuum line installed, nothing special. This is 1/4 inch silicone vac line I got off Amazon. And just runs off a factory clip, teed off to the lower fitting on the wastegate there, and clipped off on the inner fender up to the loud valve. I had to run a little vacuum adapter 1/4 inch to, I don't remember what it was, 3/16, I think, to go to the loud valve. So that's that side. Now we get on to the vacuum block. All right, next eBay or Amazon item. I don't know. I don't remember where I bought it. I try to buy these things way ahead of time so I don't have to wait for the delivery truck. But anyway, there's nothing special about it. It's just an aluminum block and a bunch of fittings. And all I'm going to do is feed it from the top of the intake manifold, there is, I think it was for the original PCV system, there's a vacuum fitting on the top of the intake manifold that I am not going to need anymore, at least not for PCV. And I'm going to run a 3/8 line off of that, feed this, and let's see. So the fittings, the way they made this, I guess I'll switch to this side, but it would have been nice if the fittings were on the front. I don't know. I'll figure it out. We'll get it mounted and see what it looks like. I don't know. All right, I figured out where I'm going to mount it. Using my old standby that you can't read, but it's Permatex #2 non-hardening sealer. It's not RTV. It is my choice for thread sealing, at least for this kind of stuff. Most of the time I use Teflon tape on pipe thread, which I used on my nipples there, but these guys I'm going to use the Permatex because it's easier to work with. And that's it. I figured out I'm going to need 3 outlets off this thing. One for the blow-off valve, one for the wiper motor, and one for the boost gauge. I think that is all I need. So now, we'll mount it up and get it hooked up. All right, vacuum block is mounted on the firewall and fed off of that fitting off the top of the intake manifold. And yeah, I think that'll work. Next will be run the lines. Okay, with the vacuum lines done, other than the boost gauge, the next item on the list is the, what is this? Catch can. Catch can. Bought this a while ago. So, not running a PCV system, because with the turbo and the boost, PCV doesn't really work very well. It wants to pressurize a crankcase if you get any blow-by in the rings or anything, and can make a mess. So, bought this, I'm sure, off of eBay. This is a Max Speeding Rods catch can. And let's see what it comes with. Probably not a whole lot to it. Drain fitting. The can. There. And baffle for the top. Just sits on top to let fresh air in. So this is set up for number 10 AN. I am running 2 driver side valve covers. So what that gives me 2 oil feed connections. And then I bought these, which thread in place of the oil filler cap and have number 10 AN. So that, well, the O-ring, I guess it goes around that section. So that way I can just run number 10 AN lines from each valve cover over to, there we go, the catch can. And yeah, so I guess to put oil in the engine, you just disconnect one of the lines. I guess. All right, I guess that's the next thing to do. We're running out of things on the list, which is good. So let's put it in. So first thing I'm doing is just putting these things together. Obviously, O-ring for this. So it goes around this way. Sure it does. Get on there. There we go. That fits up into the groove, so that seals on the valve cover. Then I've got the drain I got to put on to the catch can. Look, it's got Teflon tape already on it. And that'll thread into the bottom here. Get a wrench. Well, that feels like it's going to spin almost all the way in by hand, which is not the best thing. But I'll get a wrench and tighten that down. Okay, well, playing around with fittings, I realize I do not have enough left of my swap meet stuff to do this. I'm going to have to actually spend some money and buy a 10AN kit with some fittings. I only have 3 number 10 fittings. I bought all this stuff at a swap meet. Huge box full of 6, 8, and 10s, you know, fittings, hose, everything for like next to nothing. So it's been excellent, but I will have to buy some more. So I got to buy a kit. I'll probably just get some more Evil Energy stuff on number 10. I need some 90s. I need, I don't know if I can use 45s or not, but I at least need some 90s and some hose. And I won't use the red and blue disco stuff. I'll get black stuff. So it'll all just disappear in the engine compartment with everything else. And yeah, when we come back, it'll be days later. And hopefully I'll have everything I need to get this done. Okay, we are finally back. For you, no time at all. For me, I think it's been about a week. Crazy thing, I ordered some AN10 hose and fittings off Amazon, and it was supposed to be here days ago. Then they say it hasn't shipped yet and been delayed. I said, oh, that's great. So I bought a different set with less line, but enough. I think this one only has like 10 feet of line. Bought this, tried to cancel the other one, and of course came back and said, we can't cancel it because it's being shipped. It's not being shipped. It's still not here. It has not shipped. So we're going to run with this one. And when the other one comes, I don't know. Maybe we'll keep it for a future project. Maybe we'll send it back. We'll see. But I will say I do spend just a little bit more money. It's not a lot. But to get the Evil Energy stuff versus some of the, I don't know what you want to call them, different off-brand stuff. Just because I've had no problems with Evil Energy stuff. The fittings worked really well for the fuel system. No leaks. Everything felt good. So that's what I bought to use for fittings to get this catch can plumbed up. And I got some 90s and 45s and stuff, but you know. Let's get it hooked up. Okay, time to mount this thing. And one thing has changed. Look. Hear the echo. I think this is the first time that the hood's been on the car in many years. When I bought the car, it wasn't even bolted on. And to that point, I had to make bolts, hood hinge bolts for these, because these use like a shoulder bolt. It's not just a bolt that goes into the hood. There's actually a machined shoulder that fits into the hinge before it goes into the hood. So I had to make my own. Not a big deal to do, but it's just one more thing. But if you know anything about 55 Buicks, they have the absolute worst hood hinges ever designed. I mean, what happens is when you open and close the hood, it does this. It's horrible. And when we put the hood on, as I couldn't do this myself, a buddy of mine stopped over, and if anybody's ever stops over at my place, you're going to do some work. You don't just stop by to say hi. No. So I grabbed him and we put the hood on, and I lubed up the hinges, but I felt like the hood was going to bend. I mean, it was so screwy. Trying to close it, it was just bad. So, in my best figured out fashion, I cut the hood springs out. Gone. So, because I was more concerned about damaging this hood than having it work with a spring. Plus the fact I know I'm not going to use my factory latch because I got the intercooler up here. So, hack the hood springs out. So now the hood just goes up and down on its own. It's still wonky, but it doesn't have the springs pulling on it. So it's actually much straighter going up and down than it was. But with the hood on, can't really see very well what I'm doing here. So I've got a light and a nice echo in here. And I put 2 riv nuts in the inner fender well, my new favorite tool. And that's where I'm going to mount the catch can. So we'll get this bolted up. And in my usual no-dollar fashion, these bolts are stolen from the parts truck out front, the Escalade that's out there. what kind of hardware you can get when you part out a car. Why go to buy stuff when you have it, you know? So, look at that. Like it was made to be there. All right, back at the messy bench. Let's start making a line for this catch can. We are so close to driving this car, let me tell you. I can't wait. I get like a little kid. You know, you get a car done and running. I just keep starting it. I just want to hear it. It's just like a kid with a new toy. Like this is just too cool. All right, this stuff has to be worked with here. I think that's the most fun. Where did I put my screwdriver? I must have put it away. See, this is what happens when I clean up. It's better just leave the stuff everywhere because then I know where it is. All right, let's put one of these together. Anyway, that's good. I think that's the best part. That hurt of building these cars is the time you get to fire it up after it's been so long in the making to build it. The first engine start is awesome. The first drive is always interesting. You do everything you can so you don't have to walk home. That's the goal. And I've been pretty lucky. I had one car that did not make me walk, but it stranded me. I had somebody following me on the debut drive of 47 Cadillac I built. I had a transmission cooler line that somehow got cut. I think when I slid it over a line, it was a little sharp or something, and the tranny line got cut. And we were going to a car show for the maiden voyage, going to drive it a half hour away to go to a car show. And I think we got about 15 minutes, and I had the white cloud of transmission fluid. But lucky, my buddy was following me, and I took his car, drove home, got my truck and trailer, and towed it home, and repaired the line and checked them all out. So that's now something I learned to look at and make sure when I do the tranny lines, if you slide a rubber line over a steel line, make sure it's not sharp so it doesn't cut the hose. All right, got the ferrule on there. And they give you a tool to use to open this up for the fitting. Big stuff. Whew, she's tight. And it's cold out. What's wrong with the weather today? My gosh, it snowed today. I thought I was going to get the Buick out soon for first drive. Not yet. And there it is. Done. 2 lines. Easy to make. I went over how to work with this PTFE line, hose, whatever you want to call it, when I did the fuel system video. It's really easy to work with, and it worked out great. Unfortunately, with the hood on the car, which makes things harder to video. But all I'm running is I have 2, I think I originally said they were driver's side valve covers, but they're 2 passenger side valve covers with fittings on them. And you can see, and it's just AN10 running around the back of the engine over to the can. And then the same thing back there. AN10 back to the can off the valve cover. And that is it for that. Getting closer. Okay, so where are we on the list? Well, I had to add a couple things. Things that won't stop me from driving this down the road, but I had to add a couple things. But let's cross off what's done now. So catch can, done. I had to add e-brake because I still need to make a couple e-brake cables. Pump cover. I need to make the cover for the opening in the trunk where my spare tire mount is or will be, and then I need a spare tire and a jack. Those can be done after the first drive. The hood is on, so no more worry about that. Still have to do the wideband. Air filter, didn't even mention that. I found an air filter in my pile of stuff, so we have an air filter. Boost gauge, have to do that. Hood prop. Now that I got rid of the hood springs, I've got to make like a fold-up rod or something to hold the hood up so it doesn't fall on my head. One or two. It's kind of a heavy hood. We'll have to figure that out. But man, this is getting close. I need to do tuning and whatever. I need the wideband installed. I have it. I have to do that. And I want the boost gauge installed. Oh yeah, another thing. Now that the hood latch and everything is gone, we need hood pins. So that has to be done. And that has to be done before I go down the road. Unless I'm putting a bungee cord on the hood. That could work. All right, well, with the catch can done, next thing I'm going to do, hood pins. 80s style. Well, I guess 70s style. These are just some cheap hood pins to hold it down because it needs to hold down. I welded a spring underneath the top of the hoods to keep it up because without that it wouldn't even keep it up. But at least now with the spring, obviously you can get your hand under it to lift it, which is the idea there. And for those with 55 Buicks that know how wonky these are, it goes up not so bad with the hood hinges gone, or with the hood springs just gone. So, but now I just need the pins to hold them down. And the reason I bought these is I read the reviews on them, and people complained how fast these things rust. And as soon as I saw that, I couldn't get it into the cart fast enough. So I'll get these in. Bridge this thing up in the air for now. And what I'm going to do is I have this factory cross brace here, and that's where I'm going to mount the pins. I think that'll work out pretty good. Just got to see how far in I want to mount them. So these are pretty simple to do. It's just the main pins in there. Mount them here, see where they hit the hood, drill a hole, and see what happens. Pins are bolted. Now I need to mark the hood. So I'm going to try with a little anti-seize. And see if that'll leave a mark. I might have to get some grease. Because it's really cold today. I don't know why. It's April. It's April, and all of a sudden it feels like it's February again. I don't know what's going on. Now, did it leave a mark? Yes. All right, the anti-seize actually worked good. Left marks on the hood. This one I had to do twice. Other than that, going good. Perfect. All right, pins are in and adjusted. It's going to work perfect. All that's left is the little screws for the plates, which look like they'll strip out and like immediately. So we'll try them. May need different hardware. Cables mounted to factory fender bolts. Let's see how this works. This is silly. Get in there. There it goes. Official race car. Perfect. All right, hood pins are on. It is officially a race car. All right, so with those things off the list, this car is really ready to drive. I could drive it right now, but I want the boost gauge hooked up. I want the wideband hooked up, and I have to get the car inspected. So before that, I want my e-brake to work, and the goofy little things here like the pump cover and the spare tire and jack. I just want that stuff done. If you build cars, you know the last 10% is the hardest. It's just tedious little things to get the car done. But if I don't do it now, it'll never get done. I guarantee you, because I'll be on to another project. So I'm going to get that done. That said, I'm not going to videotape that work. I'll just do it because I don't think it's interesting to watch. Unless I'm wrong, you guys tell me. If you really want to see every step and every little thing, then I'll record that stuff. But I think I'm going to just do that work. And when we come back, we'll have this car ready to drive, and we'll take it for its first drive since probably 1970. We will overview what's been done on the car, get it up and down the road. The first drive is going to be nothing but a around the block kind of thing, because I need to make sure the transmission works. Once the transmission works, and then I can say, okay, time to tune this thing and get it out on an actual real drive. But I need to make sure the damn thing shifts, because it's been sitting on a dirt floor for over 20 years, and I don't know if it's going to shift. So that said, this will be the end of this video. We got done on this one. The catch can's installed. The vacuum block is installed. We got the hood pins installed. And even that stuff's not that interesting, but I videotaped it, so it is what it is. All right, so when we come back, like I said, we're ready to drive this thing. It's almost there. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for subscribing. If you're interested in these different kind of builds, please subscribe. I would be doing LS swaps and some other kind of swaps into many different vehicles. None, well, I won't say none, most of which are not something you would normally see. I think the only common one I'm going to do is I have a Nova, and we're going to put, or I'm going to put an LQ9 and a T56 6-speed in that, and make that a fun driver, because I'm a Nova guy. I've had Novas forever, and I love Novas. All right, that's enough rambling. So thank you very much again for watching. Thank you for subscribing. We'll see you on the next one. Later.